All right, we're going to be working in lesson 5.5. And in lesson 5.5, we're going to be working on what's called standard form. Okay? All right, so standard form is the equation wrote as ax plus by equals c. Kind of some main points here you need to know is that x and y have to be on the same side, okay? We really don't care if there's addition or subtraction here in the middle, okay? So if I wanted to say a minus, it'd be the same thing, okay? But we have to have x and y on the same side, okay? And now when I'm looking at a, b, and c, okay, these guys are just numbers. 1, 2, 0, negative 25. It doesn't matter, okay? So these guys are going to be numbers. And that's a little s, okay? All right, now there are three very important rules that go along with standard form, okay? The first rule is you can have no fractions or decimals anywhere in your final answer. So when a, b, and c, since there are numbers, they are going to have to be a whole number, okay? And we are going to have times we have fractions. I'm going to show you how to kind of get rid of those. Okay, the second part is a must be positive. So in other words, this number out in front of the x, this guy right here, has to be a positive number, okay? And then the last one, GCF, and if you don't know what GCF is, that's greatest common factor, must be 1, okay? And we're going to talk about this a little bit more just in a little while, but I'm going to tell you right now, the main two that you are going to need to know, you're going to need to know number 1 and number 2. Those are the two main ones that we are going to be working on. So again, no fractions or decimals, so a, b, and c have to be whole numbers, and then this a value up front has to be a positive, okay? All right, so let's go ahead and kind of drop down here and look at our first example. All right, and first off, the directions tell us write point slope, slope intercept, which is that's review material, and standard form of the equation of the line through the given point, okay? So just to kind of, as a review here real quick, keep in mind point slope, right, is y minus y1 equals mx minus x1. And this is where we're going to start. We're going to start everything in point slope form. We will then move to slope intercept, y equals mx plus b. And then we're going to move to the last guy. We're going to keep working our equations and make it look like ax plus by equals c. Basically, we're just going to put x and y on the same side. All right, so our first equation, or first example here, okay, so we've got a point and a slope, hence why we're starting in point slope form. So y minus 4, right, because this right here, that's your y value, okay, equals negative 2x minus negative 4. Again, because negative 4 is our x value, okay? All right, and then, of course, I expect us to clean this up and call that a plus 4. All right, so off to the side, I'm going to write point slope. You need to do this on your homework or test or quizzes or whatever, so I know what's going on. So this guy right here is point slope. Put a label right next to it. So we're going to start by distributing. Y minus 4 equals negative 2x minus 8. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to add the 4 over. So I get y equals negative 2x minus 4. All right? And that's going to be slope intercept. Okay? So all the things we've just done so far, that's all review. Okay? So point slope, we have point slope, we have slope intercept. Now we're going to take it into that last form of slope standard form. Ax plus by equals c. So what really is happening here is I need to get this x moved over to this side, okay? So all we're going to do is put the x and the y on the same side. So to make that happen, I'm going to add 2x over to the other side. So I have 2x plus y equals negative 4. And that is standard form. All right, so now we need to check our rules. So our first rule was no fractions or decimals. So I have a 2. There's a 1 right here, and a negative 4. So we're good. That's A, B, and C. Okay, again, A, B, and C were just numbers. The second rule is that A must be positive. 2 is a positive, so we're good there. And then when we talk about the GCF being 1, so an example of what I'm talking about here, if I have the equation 8x plus 4y equals negative 16, do you guys see how all of these are divisible by 4? So if you can divide all three parts by a number, then they expect you to do that. So you would divide all these by 4 and get 2x plus y equals -4. Now, like I said, this is not going to happen very much. So this is the GCF, okay, is 1. But it's not going to happen very often, so you're probably not going to really deal with that. All right? So again, what I'm looking for is for you now to write it in all three forms: point slope, slope intercept, and then to get it to standard form. This is the last big step. Okay? All right, let's go to example 3 here. All right, on example 3, same thing. We're going to start with point slope. So we're going to have y minus -4 equals -8/5 x minus 5. Again, I do expect us to have a double negative become a positive, and this will be point slope. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and go into slope intercept. So we start with distributing. So y plus 4 equals -8/5 x. A negative times a negative will become a plus, and then the 5's in this case will cancel out, so I have a plus 8. Now we're going to subtract the 4 off to the other side, so we're going to subtract 4 over to here. So I get y equals -8/5 x plus 4. So that's slope intercept. Okay. All right, now we're going to kind of move on. We're going to take this now to standard form. So this is that, like I said, the new part. We're going to put the x and the y on the same side. So I'm going to add the 8/5 x over by the y there. So that cancels. So I have 8/5 x plus y equals 4. Now, this is an issue because we have a fraction, and we know the very first rule said no fractions or decimals. So we're going to do what's called clearing the fraction, which is something that we worked on back in chapter 2, okay? So to clear the fraction, remember, we multiply by whatever's on the bottom, right there. So I'm going to multiply everything by 5. So I'm going to take 8/5 times 5, and when I do that, these 5's will cancel out, so you're just left with the 8. So I'm going to have 8x, 5 times y will be plus 5y equals, and then 5 times 4 will be 20. All right? And so my a, or my front number here, is positive, so that's good, and I can't divide by a number. So this right here is going to be my standard form. Okay? All right, so then again, I'm looking for 3 answers for right now: point slope, slope intercept, and standard. And again, I expect you to label so I know what's going on. All right, going to the next one. Okay, 2 points. So the first thing we're going to have to do is we're going to have to find the slope. Got to have the slope when we're given 2 coordinate points. Okay, so we're going to, in fact, I'm going to kind of put the slope just kind of up here a little bit. So we're going to take 4 minus 5. Again, doesn't matter what you start with. Just put your y's on top. So 4 minus 5, -1 minus 0. So I have -1 over -1, which is going to be 1. So this right here is going to be the slope that I use. Now, again, you can use either coordinate point. I'm going to be using this guy right here because that's the easiest one to deal with. Now, if you want to use a different one, that's fine. Okay, but anytime I got a 0, I'm using it. All right, so point slope. Y minus my y value, which is 5, equals my slope, which is 1, and x minus 0. Okay, so again, label point slope. All right, so now go ahead and distribute the 1 through. So y minus 5 equals 1x, or x, doesn't matter. 1 times 0 is 0. Add the 5 over. So y equals 1x plus 5. So there's slope intercept. Okay? All right, so now we're going to go to standard form. All right, and on standard form, again, remember, we're going to go ahead and put the x over to the other side. So I'm going to subtract the 1x over. So I have -1x plus y equals 5. Now, this guy breaks the second rule. Can't have an a value that is negative. So to fix it, we're basically just going to divide everything by -1 or flip your signs. That's the easy fix. So we're just going to divide by -1, or again, just flip your signs. So x, it becomes a minus y and a minus 5. And that's going to be standard form. Okay. All right. I'm going to walk you through that one more time. Okay, so first thing we're going to do, find slope. So I'm going to have -1 minus -3. Again, it doesn't matter where you start with the -1 or the -3. And then since I started with the -1, I got to start with the -5 minus 2. So this is going to become a plus, so I end up with 2 over -7, and that's going to be my slope. All right, now when I'm looking at these coordinate points, it's really a wash. Neither one's really better than the other. So I'm going to go ahead and just work with this first guy. Again, it doesn't really matter, so I'm going to work with that guy right there. All right, so point slope, y minus -1 equals -2/7, and then x minus -5. All right, so again, I'm going to make these both pluses. So y plus 1 equals, distribute, so -2/7x minus, positive times negative is a negative. And then if I put this over 1, I'm really just going to multiply 2 times 5 and then 7 times 1. So I'm going to end up with -10/7. All right. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and subtract the 1 off. So y equals -2/7x minus, and it ends up being 17/7. You put that in your calculator, do that. And I forgot to label, so I'm going to go back here and label real quick. Point slope, and then y equals mx plus b. This is slope, intercept. Okay. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and go down to standard form. So I'm going to move the x over, right? So add the 2/7x over to the other side. Okay, so when you do that, you have 2/7x plus y, make a better y there, equals -17/7. Now again, we have an issue. We have fractions. How do we deal with a fraction? We clear it by multiplying by the denominator. So I'm going to multiply everything here by 7. So again, here the 7s are going to cancel. So I'm going to have 2x plus 7 times y is 7y. Everything gets multiplied by that 7. Take it to here. Again, same thing's going to happen here. This 7 and this 7 are going to cancel. So I'm going to have -17. My a value was positive, no fractions and decimals, I'm good to go. So this is going to be my standard form. Okay, all right, let's go ahead and continue on to page 2. Okay, so now on page 2, we are asking to do the same thing, but now they give us a picture. Okay, so one of the things we're going to have to do is we're going to have to come up with a slope. So if I'm looking here, I'm just going to mark some points where it's nice and pretty. Remember, we should have some sort of pattern. Okay, and I'm going to do rise over run. Okay, so I'm rising 2, running 1. So my slope is 2/1. Okay, now pick a point. I know which one I'm picking. I'm picking this guy right here, 0, 0. Super easy to work with. Whoops. So I've got 0, 0. Okay, so I'm going to, oh, let's go there. Zoom out here, and we're going to do y minus 0 equals 2, right? 2/1 should equal 2. I should have probably done that a little earlier, but 2/1 should equal 2. And then x minus 0. So there's point slope. Okay, slope intercept. Distribute the 2 through. So I'm just going to put y because y minus 0, same thing as y. 2x minus 0. So there's slope intercept. Okay, now I'm going to go to standard form. So I'm going to subtract the 2x off to this side. -2x plus y equals 0. And then I have an issue though, don't I? Okay, can we have a negative out front? No, we cannot. So to fix that, we're going to divide everything by -1. So 2x minus y equals 0. And that's going to be your standard form. Okay. All right, so we're going to go ahead and let's move over to number 7. Okay, and let's give that one a whirl. So again, we're going to just start finding points at where it's crossing nice and pretty. And in this case, there aren't very many. There's only 2 of them. Okay, so we're going to start doing rise and run. So we rise 1, 2, 3, 4, and we're running -3. Don't forget your negative there. We're going to the left. So your slope would be negative rise, so 4/3, okay? And the coordinate point, it doesn't really matter which one you pick here. They both have a 0 involved, so we'll go ahead and work with this guy. It doesn't really matter, okay? And we're going to end up with, darn it, we're going to end up with 3, 0, okay? All right, so let's start with point slope. So y minus 0 equals negative 4/3 x minus 3. Distribute, oh, so that's point, slope, okay, so now distribute. So I'm going to again put y, negative 4/3 x, the 3's are going to cancel, a negative times a negative will be a positive 4, so there's slope intercept. All right, and then my last step, take it to standard. So I'm going to add the 4/3 x over to the other side. So I have 4/3 x plus y equals 4. Again, no fractions are allowed, so we're going to multiply everything by 3 to clear the fractions. Remember, the 3's here will cancel, so I'm going to get 4x, 3 times y plus 3y equals 12. And there's my standard form. All right, I'm finishing up, sorry, standard. All right, Zach, go ahead. We're going to go ahead and conclude notes for today over lesson 5.5.